All right, so should have the blue and the yellow sheet in front of you. Before you get started, I need to make sure a couple of things is true for you to make this easier. Number one, you need to make sure your calculator is in radians, okay? So make sure that that is true in the mode button of your calculator. The next thing that I want you to do to make this easier is to set up your window so that you are able to compare your your calculator screen exactly to what you're seeing on the paper. Okay, so if you set up your window with the x minimum as negative 2 pi, x maximum of 2 pi, the x scale of pi over 2, then the things that are labeled on the graphs on those sheets will be the points that you see on the x-axis. Okay, your y minimum needs to be negative 4, your y max is 4, and your x scale is 1. So what I'd like you to do is maybe pause this video real quick, use your calculator to do the top 2 graphs on both pieces of paper, so you're making 4 graphs total, right? Use your calculator to sketch as good as you can, right? And then come back to this video and unpause. So take care of that. See you in a minute. Okay, then what I would like you to do, you should have already constructed the graphs for yourself, is on the third graph of each piece of paper, I want you to construct a sketch of the derivative of the top graph. Be as accurate as you possibly can. Okay, so here's what I'm saying. For this top graph, right, and here I'm practicing the skills that we've talked about before, I should be looking for places where this graph has 0 slope. Okay, so like here, 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 and here, and those places will end up as my x-intercepts on this graph. So I'm going to have an x-intercept at negative 3 pi over 2, negative pi over 2, at pi over 2, and 3 pi over 2. Okay, next, in between, right, these first two, or let's say before this one right here, I have a positive slope. Okay, so I should be above the x-axis. Okay, and then if I go back up here, okay, the next little section here, I have negative slopes in between those. So if I go here, right, I should be going negative. Okay, in the next little section, all right, I'm back to having a positive slope in between those. And so down here, that means that I should be connecting those above the x-axis. Okay, for the next one, if you look back, you have negative slopes that goes below, and the last little section is positive slope. Okay, same thing here. Okay, so I'm looking for, at the top graph, I'm looking for places where that it has 0 slope. Okay, it's really strange that it's not showing up on the graph above. Maybe, there we go. Okay, so that's negative pi, 0, and pi. Okay, so negative pi, 0, and pi. And I think it would also be 2 pi, negative 2 pi if we looked. Okay, in between these two up here, I'm dealing with negative slope. Okay, so it should start, let's see, below. Okay, ugh, struggling, you guys. All right, then I have positive slopes between negative pi and 0. So that's going to go here. The next little section has negative slopes, so it's going to be below. And the next little section has positive slopes there. Okay. All right, so once you have made those graphs at the bottom, right, the question I want you to answer is, have you seen this graph anywhere else? Okay, so just as a reminder, before we even look, this graph, right, this is the derivative of, it's the top graph here, sine of x. Okay, that's what we're looking at in this picture. And when I look at this graph, right, have I seen this anywhere else? Well, it's definitely not the other ones on the blue sheet. When I look here, it looks suspiciously like this first graph on the yellow sheet. So my prediction is that the derivative of sine of x must be the same thing as cosine x. Okay. If I do the same kind of process down here, right, this graph is the derivative, so this is the yellow sheet, of cosine x, and I am looking for, have I seen this graph anywhere else before? Well, it's certainly not either of them on the yellow sheet. Let's check the blue sheet. It's not the top one on the blue sheet, but it does look like the second one on the blue sheet. Okay, so it looks like the derivative of cosine x must be negative sine x. Okay, so a little practice of your derivative graphing, since we know that's something that's coming up on a quiz. Okay, and then I'm going to take you through the last couple of examples back in the notes template in the next video.